Hey guys, today I want to talk about a subset of market trading strategies that allowed me to make a few meters this league with very little time investment and that aren't complex at all, but they require gold to execute and they were pretty much made possible and accessible to average people by the introduction of the currency exchange, which is why I'm making this video, to share my knowledge. These strategies I'm going to be talking about, they focus on profit through making advantage of items basically being underpriced relative to their value, specifically flat value or the value you can get by vendor recipeing them or HORTICRAFTING them. Now, just to preface, this video is only meant to be educational. This is not prescriptive necessarily. What I'm going to talk about works at the moment, if I do say it works, but after the video is published, you know how it is. Obviously, the profitability of strategies like this depends on how discovered they are, how popular they are. So do your own research based on the knowledge you've learned. Do your own research, please, on whether or not the strategy is profitable. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is the simplest thing possible. It's the mismatch of price against flat value. The most easily seen in cards like the Fortunate because it's currency cards, but also, for example, the Adorned last league, the divination cards that you would get those Val fragments from were underpriced compared to the value of the Adorned after you go through the process of turning it in. Now, not going to go too much in detail, but if you look at the Fortunate, for example, it's very easy to see that the value in divine orbs that it gives you is actually, it doesn't match the amounts of chaos orbs it goes for. The Fortunate is a very consistent way. Every single league they're underpriced. Every single league I buy maybe a stack or two of them just to make some easy money. Very kind of entry level flip, and you can do it very easily. Obviously, it depends how many people are farming divination cards. This league it's not so many, but it's a good thing to be aware of that it exists. There's a lot of other divination cards. Do your own research. Perhaps you'll find something interesting. The reverse is also possible. If you look at Brother's Gift, it actually goes for more than its value as well. So what I'm saying is that the prices on the currency exchange are not always rational compared to the value. And quite often you can profit of them because people are trying to get rid of their divination cards. They underprice them a bit to do so quick, and so that's how you can profit on that. Now, the next thing to discuss is the vendor recipe system. The vendor recipe system allows you to basically turn in some items for a different item. And specifically, I'm going to discuss a few vendor recipes down there. I want to discuss the random scarabs from 3 identical scarabs. I want to discuss the oils, the catalysts, and the tattoos. I'm not going to discuss the rune ones because those are not profitable right now because the runes are priced in accordingly. I'm also not going to discuss the bestiary because I don't know about it. Let's start the scarabs. The scarabs is the recipe in which you give the vendor 3 scarabs and you get a random scarab back. This has been an extremely profitable strat this league because of the difference in price between the cheap scarabs and the most expensive scarabs. The fact is that you can also buy these cheap scarabs for 1 to 2 chaos, which is what I've been practically doing this entire league. It doesn't immediately fill, but it fills maybe overnight, and then you get some very, very cheap scarabs. So you've already profited by doing so, and then you can also turn them into the vendor. The profits that I've made from buying scarabs, 1 chaos for 2 scarabs or 1 chaos for 2.5 scarabs, is at least 2 times the value that I've invested, and it returns it very, very consistently. There is a very low time investment you put into this, extremely consistent. Basically, on every 30 divines, I've made about 60 divines, on every 50, about 100, and so on. You just need a lot of gold to pull it off. Now, the next strat I want to talk about is Blight. you can also capitalize on that because the price of oils, as you can see, specifically the silver one and the oil beneath it in tier, it's not priced in accordingly to the vendor recipe. At the time of the recording, the opalescent oil goes for 22C and the silver oil goes for about 80C. So basically you can buy 3 oils for 66 and then you can sell for 80 and you make about 20% profit on that. That's an interesting strat to keep in mind. I'm not sure why this is the case, but it's been the case pretty consistently this entire league. When we talk about catalysts, so the catalysts, I've had a look at that, but the catalysts, I don't believe this is a profitable strategy. You can't profit off catalysts because of the catalysts. First of all, they're all very cheap, and secondly, the price difference between the cheapest and the most expensive is just not worth it. If you do the math, it's about 20% chance to get 4 times the value. So, you know, it's not worth it is what I'm saying. You're just gonna burn through the money. Completely not worth it. However, keep this in mind for the next leagues because this could be profitable in the future. Let's talk about tattoos. This is a very good example from this league because this is yet another very profitable strategy that you can employ to make a lot of money. Why? Because if you have a look at, for example, these tattoos, it's very easy to see why this would be profitable. You can buy a lot of shaman or warrior tattoos and then you can sell them for warmonger after vendoring them. Now, I've tested this works. The downside is the supply of tattoos is not that high. They take time to fill. The upside is that the gold investment is very minimal of these tattoos. So I think this is a very good strat. If you're interested, look into that because at the time of the recording, this works very, very well. Once again, if you I've turned in a set of 300, 400, 500 tattoos. I haven't doubled the investment, but it was about 30-40% profit on the investment that I've put in. But obviously, but it can vary, but with this spread, obviously it all depends on the spread. These prices are inaccurate. These tattoos go for 15C each. This one is around 600, so it's pretty much the same proportion. But yeah, keep this in mind. This is a very successful strategy. Basically, you can just get a bunch of tattoos and then you can turn them in and sell the expensive ones you get. The last thing, yeah, as I mentioned, the runes, it's all priced in. Don't even worry about it. It's not worth it. Now, the last thing I want to talk to you about today is HORTICRAFTIng. HORTICRAFTIng can be a way that can be good to make profit between the price difference. It's typically the spread between, for example, the breach stones. If there is a large spread, perhaps you could profit a bit here. It's a bit hard to assess the profitability of this, so I'm not really sure. For example, scarabs, they're typically priced according to their rarity. I'm not really sure if there's some very rare scarab that's cheap, because for this strat to work, you would need to have a very cheap scarab with a high rarity type, which I don't think is the case this league. Deli orbs, they all cost around the same this league as well, so I don't really think there's much point here. You also have to take into account the fact that this all costs life force, and this costs quite a lot of life force. So at that point, I'm not really a big fan of doing HORTICRAFTIng this league, but it's good to know that these things exist. You could take advantage of them in certain market circumstances. I don't really think that right now, at the time of the recording, any of these is that profitable, so I'm not going to showcase anything. I'm not really going to talk much about it. Keep in mind though that this exists, and perhaps next league this could be very profitable for you. So this part's an example of how I render the scarabs. I usually use 1 chaos for 2 scarabs. price range. Sometimes, as you can see, I use a bit higher, so a bit more scarabs for the same amount of chaos. I never go below 1 for 2. Sometimes they take a little bit of time to fill, but usually that's not a problem. Obviously, after this video goes live, if there's going to be other people doing this as well, then it's going to be slightly less profitable. However, the supply of these scarabs is still very high, so I don't really see a problem in that. In case that it's going to be difficult to buy scarabs, at least keep in mind for the next league that you could be doing this. Now this is the part where I'm vending all the scarabs. This is a quad type of scarabs. In real time it took me about 10 minutes, so I obviously sped it up for the recording. So now that's the wealthy exile part. I have 77 divs of new scarabs that I've just flipped. I've had around 30 divs of investment initially into that. So as I said, practically this at least doubles your money very consistently, and that's what practically I've been doing this entire league. One of my favorite things to do this league, and I've made around $1 million or $2 million in profits doing this. I definitely recommend doing this to everyone who's watching. However, as I said, keep in mind, do your own research, because the price of scarabs can fluctuate as well as the supply. But I think as long as you're buying 1 chaos for 2 scarabs at least, you're not gonna lose money on this. I guess I hope this video helps some people in their Path of Exile journey to make some extra currency. I'm happy to share my knowledge. And once again, if you like the content, please like and subscribe to my channel. You can also leave suggestions in the comments. Any questions, I'm happy to answer. I also have my tag in the description of the channel, so you can reach out to me in game. I'm always happy to help. And yeah, thanks again for watching. See you later.